Good afternoon. This is Rev Dore Patlian teaching the science of mind from a rainy, thundering, and lightning Sarasota, Florida. It's summertime in the tropics, ladies and gentlemen, and every afternoon we get quite a show. So if you hear a crash and a bang in the background, that's what's going on. Today we want to talk about perfection. Now, some people would say this is not a very good day. It's raining cats and dogs, and there's lightning that came so close out the window it looked like it was in the living room here, and huge thunder. But I say that's exactly perfect. It's a good example of what I'm going to talk about today. You know, when I was a kid, my father used to tell me there's nothing perfect in the universe, son. Everything is a flaw or a defect. And the reason why he told me this, because I was born with a flaw and a defect. I was born with cerebral palsy. Pretty serious case of it. Now, cerebral palsy, as you may or may not know, is not a disease. It's a birth defect. It's caused by birth trauma. You don't catch cerebral palsy. It happens to you at birth. And it is incurable because it's a symptom of nerve damage, massive nerve damage. And most people with cerebral palsy spend lives in wheelchairs and cannot use all or part of their body. And many times they're born blind, but not always. If you remember that great movie, My Left Foot, that was about a fellow who had a severe case of cerebral palsy but became a famous author and poet by writing with his foot, because that's all he could use. I was destined to be like him. Every doctor from the Mayo Clinic to UCLA Medical School to Johns Hopkins opined that I should be in an institution. And cerebral palsy wasn't curable in 1945, and it's not curable in 2013 either. But I don't have it. I was cured through the power of prayer and through my mother's steadfast belief that I was a perfect child, that what she saw was not the truth about me. Now, that may sound like denial, but it's not. It's the first step toward healing. If you buy into the story, you'll never heal it. You have to see a greater reality. You have to be able to see it in your imagination. You have to see it as real. And then you have to do the spiritual and physical work to change it. And that's what my mother and Dr. Holmes did. She went to hear a lecture by Dr. Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science in Los Angeles, where thank goodness I was born in Los Angeles, because LA is a city of possibilities. Everything new is explored and examined, and nothing is poo-pooed or said to be impossible. If I'd been born in Indianapolis or Minneapolis or somewhere in the Midwest, I'd still have cerebral palsy today because there would have been nobody to help. But my mother went to the lecture at the Wiltern Theater in Los Angeles and was transfixed by Dr. Holmes, who had such a great presence and such a wonderful way of speaking. Little short fellow from New England with a thick Maine accent. But he was very powerful because he believed every word he said because he had experienced it himself. She chatted with him after the lecture briefly, and he said, well, listen, bring him by the Institute at 10 o'clock on Monday. Can you do that for me? And she said, well, yes, I can. Religious Science Institute was the name of his organization at that time on 6th Street in Los Angeles. So at 10 o'clock, little baby Dore, and I mean little baby Dore, and mother showed up, and he began to teach her the methods of healing through prayer, through using your mind to heal. And here I am. I can run, I can walk. I'm not always as graceful as I'd like to be, no. And I did have a little help from medicine. I'll give them credit. In the 1950s, 51, I had 2 eye surgeries, which straightened my eyes enough so that I could see properly, and I did not go blind. So between the prayer and the surgeries, I'm fine. I did have crooked eyes most of my life. I looked at you out of one at a time, and it was rather disconcerting for people. But I didn't care. I taught high school for 20 years and got along just fine. The kids used to look at me funny the first day, and after that they got used to it, and we all got along great. About 10 years ago, I experienced another healing through prayer, and the eyes straightened out. They straightened out within 20 minutes of the time I left. These things aren't supposed to happen, but they do, and I'm proof positive. So let's talk about that perfection. Is everything broken? Are people born with defects, or people that aren't quite as smart as others, or people with big noses, or ears that stick out, or they're too tall, or they're too short? Are they a defect? Is this a mistake God made? Or is this being done on purpose? Is everything perfect because it's being made the way it's supposed to be? Perhaps we're defining perfection wrong. I think sometimes we think perfection means without flaw, blemish, or defect of any kind. You can hardly find anything in this world that fits that description. Even the most beautiful diamond has a flaw in it, deep within it somewhere. There is nothing without flaw in this world. But does that mean we're all junk? Does that mean we're all broken? I thought of myself as damaged goods for most of my my childhood and my young adult life, until I remembered that I could have been laying in a bed, shaking uncontrollably, blind, unable to do anything. And then I realized how foolish I had been, and I became eternally grateful. And every day I start my day with prayers of gratitude to the great architect of the universe who designed this wonderful body and this wonderful mind that can heal that body. And every night I go to bed with that same gratitude. And I recommend you do the same. No matter what your situation is, you have much to be grateful for. For one thing, you're above ground. And as long as you're above ground, my friend, you've got endless possibilities. Everything can change in your life, from your money to your relationships to your health. There is nothing written in stone. It is all up to you. How much do you believe? How much do you want it? And how hard are you willing to work to get it? The perfection I'm speaking of is divine perfection. I'm going to give you a logical sequence and see if it doesn't make sense to you. There is a creator that creates everything that exists in this universe and maybe others as well. We nickname him or her God. Some people think of it as an actual person in the sky. I think because of space travel and many other things, we pretty much figured out that that the heaven is not right above the earth, and there's probably no guy sitting up there in heaven looking down on us. But I think we do believe, most of us, that there is a creative power in the universe. That somebody designed all this. That the double helix of DNA didn't happen by accident. Beautiful pattern of a snowflake was not just a random chance. That the beautiful smile of a baby, a newborn baby, is a gift from God. That this universe was designed and created by a great mind, a great consciousness, a ground of being, something greater than us. We didn't create it. Somebody did. And I don't subscribe to the idea of random chance, which many of our scientists like to say. Primordial soup, and out of this soup we arose. Horse feathers. That's like saying that a room full of chimpanzees with a bunch of typewriters can sit and pound the keys and eventually write Shakespeare. That's how foolish that sounds to me. But I could be wrong. But I think there is a mind behind everything that exists. And if it is, it's perfect. It's perfect creation. It's perfect love. It's perfect life. It's perfect mind. And that mind is the mind of God. And that same mind is inside of us in microcosm. Not in that same scale, on a smaller scale, but just as powerful in its own way. And that mind, not your brain, your mind. Your brain's a computer. Your mind is what uses the computer. That your mind has power to transform your life at any time you decide to do it. You can move from one state of mind to another just by making the choice to do it and being rigorous about changing your thinking, changing your attitudes, change what you speak, change the people you hang around with if they're contributing to your negativity. That's how you change your life. Divine perfection means that things are created just the way they're supposed to be. I was supposed to be born with cerebral palsy. It wasn't a mistake. Why? So that I could overcome it, so I could be healed, and I could stand in front of audiences from coast to coast, from Canada to the Caribbean, as I did for 17 years, and they could see that the power I'm talking about works. They can see that if I can do it, they can do it. Why would somebody be born mentally retarded? So that they don't live in their ego, and so that they can practice unconditional love and just be. And if you've ever been around a person that we call retarded, somebody who's a little less bright than the rest of us, they are the most loving people by and large that you'll ever want to be around. They just give unconditional love. because their minds are not all cluttered up with trying to be successful or this or that or the other things. They just be. And it's wonderful. Everything that happens on this earth happens for a reason. Earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, these let off the pressure and the tectonic plates and the molten magma at the core of the earth to keep this earth from blowing itself to smithereens, which it would have done eons ago without them. Tsunamis, of course, are the after effects of earthquakes. They're very important to have these things happen as a safety valve for Earth. They can be devastating to humanity because we insist on living in areas where there are earthquake faults and near the coasts where waves can destroy our cities. That's our choice. We don't have to live there. That doesn't mean we're to blame for them, but it means we could move, couldn't we? Such things as storms. I live on the west coast of Florida. We have hurricanes every year. Not all of them come this way. In fact, most of them don't. Sarasota itself has never been hit full force with a hurricane yet, knock on a lot of wood, but we've had some near misses that have sure done a lot of damage in signs, trees, pool cages, patios, a lot of damage, but no real destruction. Why do these things happen? They're the safety valve for our atmosphere. They keep our atmosphere from blowing itself into space, as Mars's apparently did. Scientists now, looking at the information from the rovers, think that at one time Mars had an atmosphere and water, perhaps similar to the Earth, because it is in the zone where it should be a temperate, beautiful climate and a planet like ours. Why is it a red, deserted planet? Because it lost its atmosphere and its water. There's still ice buried under the planet, so they know there was water. Perhaps the safety valve system ceased to function, and they lost everything that can sustain life. That could happen here if we don't take care of our planet better, couldn't it? So there's divine perfection in which everything is made the way it's supposed to be. Therefore, even though it has a flaw, it was made perfectly. And then there's human perfection, which doesn't exist, does it? Because we were all made with a challenge to overcome. We were all given a gift, and we were all given a dream, and we were all given a challenge. That's part of life. What we do with them is what makes up our lives. It is up to us. We choose the things we do in our life. We choose the words we speak. We choose the attitudes we have toward wealth, people, love, money, life itself. We choose these things. No one forces us to do anything. And so in the final analysis, we are the masters of our fate and the captains of our soul. So I say to you on this 4th of July day, be grateful for everything that you have. If it's the tiniest little bit, be grateful for it and work to build more. Don't be satisfied with it. Just be grateful for what you have. Be the best you can be. Be the best you can be, whatever that is. And until we meet again, bye-bye for now.